بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to come together in this blessed gathering. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the NTU Muslim Society for this kind invitation. And we pray to Allah that Allah bless this gathering and make it a reason where our sins are forgiven, our prayers are answered. And may Allah open for us the doors of understanding, that by it we are given the guidance to obey Him and to refrain from His prohibitions. We are in the blessed month of Sha'ban, and we are entering into a very important month in Islam. That is the month of Ramadan, and it is just a few days away, and it is important for us Muslims to make preparation. If something big is coming, normally preparation is important, because there are a lot of aspects that is coming that we have to pay attention to and to take opportunities that will come, because such opportunities can only come once in a year, and we do not know when our life will be, whether we will be still alive next year, or we will reach Ramadan this year. Our ulama they make this dua when the coming of Sha'ban comes. They say Allahumma barik lana in Rajab, fi Rajab wa Sha'ban. Oh Allah, bless us in the month of Rajab and Sha'ban, wa ballighna Ramadan, and make us reach the month of Ramadan. So this is very important. These are very important days for us to be aware of, and to understand the significance of the month of Ramadan in our spiritual being and spiritual state, and how we can use such opportunities to enhance in our spirituality. Because, my dear brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, our purpose in life is to make ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is our purpose. We live for the sake of Allah. We die for the sake of Allah. We pray for the sake of Allah. We study in NTU for the sake of Allah. Whatever things that we do, we dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the meaning of a Muslim. A Muslim is a person who surrenders to Almighty Allah. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. This is the meaning of Islam. That's what Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah mentioned, kana musliman wa ma kana minal mushrikeen. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is a Muslim. The meaning of Muslim here is a person who submit in totality to Allah and surrender everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and trying his best and fulfilling the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah is the maqsood. Allah is the objective. So as a Muslim, you must be clear on this. It is important for us to get our objectives clear. In every event that you host, you will always speak about the objectives, correct? No? In every course that you take, your lecturers will also speak about the objectives. What are the objectives in learning a particular science? What is the objective in your learning in a particular course? What is the thing that you want to fulfill at the end of the course? So normally people they are aware about the importance of having objectives in the things that they are doing, in working, in studying, likewise in family, in getting married, and all these things. And all these things we have objectives. We have the reason and the motivation behind. But what about the objectives of life? The Quran speaks about the objective behind the creation of insan, which nowadays a lot of people are still asking, why am I here? What is my purpose of life? Where will I go after I die? These are important questions that we need to find the answers when we are on the face of this earth, because when death comes, it is too late. It is too late, and if, for example, you have completed your exams, then you understand actually the objective of this particular course that I'm studying is this and this and this. But you say, khalas, the exams is over. You got your results already. and you do not do well, because you do not understand the objectives, and that is one of the reasons in your failure. So we do not want to be like people, and when death comes, then we will be in a state of loss. We want to be in a state of always in a state and benefit. How are we able to benefit the life that Allah has given us? 60, 70 years maybe. Some of us maybe earlier, maybe later. Some of us in this lecture, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lengthen your age, but some might be lesser. But at the end of the day, we will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is for sure. And it is important with all this age that Allah bless us with on the face of this earth. Firstly, as a Muslim, we need to understand what is our objective. The Quran speaks about this. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Our objective in life is Allah. Yani number one is to know who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to know Him before you love Him. You have to know Him before you love Him. And after you have known Him, then you must obey Him. And then you need to understand what are His commandments. How do I obey Him? And what are His prohibitions? The one who created the heavens and the earth, brought you into this existence, and tested you with a few responsibilities, and gave you some commandments to see whether you perform or you don't perform, whether you do or you don't do, whether you believe or you don't believe. If you believe, mashallah, you will attain any success. But if you don't believe, then you will get lost. You will attain loss from Allah. So it is important that we ponder upon our objective in life. Inna salati wa nusuki, for verily my prayer, my life, my death, my ibadah, everything I dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, is saying every single thing in this life is for the sake of Allah. How are we able to get this objective right in our minds? That is also a challenge today. Because today our minds are bombarded with a lot of things. Human beings have different goals in life, different objectives, and people are propagating every aspects of the things that they want in life. But as a Muslim, we need to be consistent, and we need to be firm and have conviction in the Quran. And faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the key. So once we have understood our objective in life, then we will come to the conclusion about the obligation of knowing who is our Maker. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who is the one who created me? Who is the one who has placed these objectives upon me? So we are in need to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is Allah? And the reason why I'm speaking about this, because this is the foundation of our religion. The foundation of our religion rests in Iman. The foundation of our religion lies in knowing who is the one who brought you into existence. Because if you do not know about Allah, then we cannot reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Simple as that. When we mention that our objective in life is Allah, how can we reach Him if we do not know Him? So that is why Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhuma, when he speaks about the verse in the Quran, Allah mentioned, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created men and jinn except to يَعْبُدُونِ, yani to worship me. He said the meaning of يَعْبُدُونَ is يَعْرِفُونَ. Ibn Abbas he mentioned the meaning of يَعْبُدُونَ, to worship me, meaning to know me. So here in his scholars in Tafsir, he speaks about the importance of ma'rifah, the importance of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as Muslims, we have to make these foundations strong. We have to make this foundation strong, but before that we have to make this foundation right. In order for you to make a foundation strong, you have to do it correctly. Otherwise, it will not be strong. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in NUS and I speak upon this topic, speaking about the theology, Islamic theology. So I mentioned as what ulama mentioned, that the parable of the knowledge of aqidah, knowledge of theology, is the parable of having a strong foundation. To have any foundation, if you are building a building, you need to have a strong foundation. If you are building a building that is 40 story, you have to maintain a foundation that can sustain 40 story. But if you build a building more than that, then the foundation has to be deeper and stronger. And people have to understand about the importance of this foundation, how to go about in building. Any one of you study any about this in your courses? Anyone? What science do they call it? This thing? Civil engineering? Anyone here? Nobody? Alhamdulillah. Ala kulli hal. Anyway, most Muslims students, which course do most people take amongst the Muslims? Which is the famous course? May I know? Engineering? Okay. So to build any song, any foundation, we have to understand how I need to go about to get it right and to make it firm. So when we speak about knowing our Creator, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to understand a few things. Some of you might be wondering, this topic is about spirituality, how come I'm speaking about theology? No, there is a connection. You will understand at the end of the lecture, inshallah. Because when you remember this, in Islam, there is no spirituality without aqidah, the right aqidah. And you have to memorize this. There is no spirituality without the right aqidah, because Islamic spirituality is built upon the foundations of belief. The foundations of belief. So I am taking you like a ride from the foundations up into the fruits. From the foundations up into the fruits. This is how we should look at Islam. Because Islam has foundations and it has the branches and the fruits, just like a tree. The parable of the tree. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. And in the Quran, Allah speaks about the tree. That the parable of the kalima طَيِّبَةً La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah is like the parable of the tree. أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. The foundations are deep and strong. And the branches are up into the skies. And it produces fruits. So in Islam, there is this thing about foundation, branches, and fruits. The topic of today's lecture is about the fruits. But we have to go all the way back into the foundation and to understand how you get the fruits from the foundation. Because when you look at the tree and you're asking, for example, how do I get any good fruits from the tree? The farmer will tell you, you have to pay attention to the roots. Correct? And if you always you pour chemicals after chemicals in the tree, and it will die. Khalas. No branches, wala fruits. So we have to pay attention to the roots, and then we have to go back we have to pay attention to the roots. Then we have to go back to the branches, and then we look at the quality of the fruits that is produced. So everything has a connection. It has a connection. So when it comes to ma'rifatullah, knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, it is important to study the knowledge of aqidah. Again, knowledge of aqidah. Meaning, we have to understand what are the necessary attributes of Allah, what are the impossible attributes, and what are the possible attributes. This is what we study in books of Tawheed. And then number two, we have to understand the evidences behind. So that we do not land into confusion on certain things that are related to attributes. And this is also a danger here, because it will affect spirituality. A fault in understanding theological issues, especially the main issues in theology, can affect the spirituality of a person. So that is why our scholars always emphasize on the importance of studying this knowledge and get it right. Point number one. Number two, how are we able to use this knowledge and to increase our iman? This is another endeavor. How are we able to utilize the knowledge that we have benefited from theology, from aqidah, and we use it in a way that it can boost our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So here our scholars speaks about the importance of al-dhikr wal-fikr. Al-dhikr wal-fikr. Number one is remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning recitation of the Quran and reciting the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophetic invocations. And it is important as a Muslim that we have our daily recitation of invocations, a daily recitation of the Quran, a daily recitation on remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of tasbih and tahleel and tahmeen. And then we have the aspect of al-fikr. Al-fikr is ponderance. How are we able to utilize this knowledge and help us in pondering upon the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is manifested in the creations. So for example, in the Quran, Allah said, "Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab." Verily, in the creations of the heavens and the earth, the coming of night and day, these are signs for those who possess intelligence. Who are those who possess intelligence? Alladina yadhkuruna Allah. Dhikr, remembrance of Allah. They remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alladina yadhkuruna Allah qiyaman wa qu'udan wa ala junubihim, meaning constant remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa yatafakkaruna fi khalqis samawati wal ard, and then they also ponder upon the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested in the creations. So there is the aspect of dhikr and there is the aspect in your fikr. And these are ways to boost our iman. And we can do this by having the tools of theology. That is why it is important to get our beliefs right. And in enhancing that belief, we have to have remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ponderance upon the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is important in maintaining our iman, to have a strong faith in Allah, paying attention to our roots and our foundations, so that whatever happens in our life, we have the strength to go on. Sheikh Ramadan al-Buti, Sheikh al-Buti rahimahullah, he said the parable of iman is like a fuel for the car. And he gave the parable of a car. Imagine you have a Ferrari but no fuel. And the car is beautiful, but it cannot function. It cannot function. This is a parable of a person who has weak iman, but maybe he has a lot of knowledge, but because of the weakness of iman, is very difficult to move. So this is the parable of having a strong faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of us, we are in need of a strong conviction and faith in Allah, in every aspect of our life. Because life in this dunya is about tests. Allah is constantly testing all of us. We are constantly tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every aspect of life. Some of us, we are facing some difficulties in our families. Some of us facing difficulties in our studies. Some of us facing difficulties in financially. Some of us facing difficulties, in the household, and so on and so forth. So how are we able to withstand all these difficulties and these tests? One of it is to strengthen our iman. And this is the way to strengthen our iman. So this is the first aspect that I want to talk about. That we have to be firm in this aspect of the foundations. So never forget any of these aspects, because the fault some people, they jump. They don't pay attention to the foundations and they jump into the fruits. It is like a person who wants to build a house and he say, why must I build these foundations? I can straight away build the roof. Correct? So what happens? He will collapse. And when collapse happens, a person becomes confused. And this is happening a lot in our society, sadly. Because people do not know how I need to go about in this maze. How I need to build. In Islam, we call it to build the manhaj, to build the curriculum. In Islam also there is a curriculum. The path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a curriculum. Correct or not? The path to NTU also there is a curriculum. Correct or not? You are studying in NTU. Before NTU, you are somewhere else. Correct or not? Some of you are in JC, some of you are in Poly. But if a person who doesn't go to O-level, A-level, can he call up any NTU and say, I want to join any NTU as a student? NTU say, no, cannot. You have to take the path. You have to take O-level first. Then you have to take A levels. Then you have to look at your results. Whether you get good A's or you get any bad results, and you might not take you in. So there is a path that you are here. That you have gone through primary school, PSLE, entering into secondary school, sitting for O levels and A levels. Then you enter into. This is the path, this is the curriculum, the manhaj, that you are able to reach this destination. There are a lot of people that wanted to enter NTU, but they are unable to enter NTU because they do not get any good grades. They end up somewhere else. So there is a path to the things that we want to achieve. And the most important path in life is the path to Allah, our Creator. So there is the path to NTU, there is a path to NUS, there is a path to Polytechnic. There is a path to literally everything that you want, whether good or bad. There is always going to be a path. A person wants to be good, and there is a path. Wants to be bad, also there is a path. But the most important path is the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we speak about the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to understand the nature of His path. How are we able to be on this path? How are we able to walk this path? And how are we able to reach the destination? So this requires a lot of things. It is not as easy as it looks. Just like it is not as easy to enter NTU. It requires a lot of sacrifice, many years. Sacrifice in terms of wealth, sacrifice in terms of time, in terms of youth. You have to sacrifice all these things in order for you to be here. Likewise, today we are asking this question: how are we able to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because that is our ultimate goal. Our goal in life is to reach Allah, to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first aspect, as what I mentioned, this theological, we call it the theological aspect. We have to get this right. That is our foundation. We have to build our foundation because we are going up. Our foundations need to be strong to take this path. We have to make sure foundations must be strong. That it must be a foundation that can sustain us all the way till our destination. So that is why our scholars always speaking about the importance of this knowledge, because in order for you to go far, your foundations must also be deep. Asluha sabitun, Allah said in the Quran, Asluha sabitun wa faruha fis sama. This is the meaning of Asluha sabitun. In Islam, we have the asl. That is why knowledge and theology, sometimes it is referred to usuluddin. That is the foundations of this religion. So this is the first aspect, and that's what we mentioned. Then, after the foundations comes guess what? After the foundations, comes the what? The branches. Once we are firm in our foundation in Iman to Allah, then we look at the branches. The branches comes in the form of commandments and prohibitions. So we are in front of commandments and prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is testing us. Whether you do or you don't do. Whether you pray or you don't pray. Whether you wear the hijab or you don't wear the hijab, only for the ladies. Whether you drink liquor or you don't drink liquor. Whether you fast in Ramadan or you don't fast. So Allah give you obligations that you have to pray 5 times a day. You have to fast in the month of Ramadan. You have to pay the zakah when you have the wealth and the conditions. You have to perform the Hajj. And likewise, any responsibilities in your husband, if a person is married, the wife. Likewise, nafaqah. Responsibilities as a student, responsibilities as a worker, responsibilities as a boss, responsibility as an employee, and so on and so forth. Responsibility as the head of state, and so on and so forth. Every one of us, we have responsibilities. That is what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, كُلُّكُمْ رَاءٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. The Prophet mentioned, all of you are shepherds, the parable of shepherds, and all of you will be questioned by Allah on the things that is under you. So a husband he will be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the responsibilities that he carry out. The wife will be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Yawm al-Qiyamah there is hisab. There is hisab. What is the meaning of hisab? Reckoning. This is scary. Life is not easy. Even after death, life is not easy. A lot of people thought after death there is no more to worry about. No, in Islam after death there is the beginning. Life in this dunya is just a test. The reality of life comes after death, not now. Now is the place of trials and tribulations and tests of iman, the place where we toil, the place of mujahada, the place where we go against our nafs and force ourselves in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having faith. So this life in this dunya it is about mujahada. It is about putting in efforts. Not we relax in one corner. But this is a place of work. Not a place of rest. It is a place of efforts. Not a place of luxury. But the reality will come after death. After death comes the barzakh. That the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that every one of us will be questioned by Allah. Man rabbuka, wa man dinuka, wa man ikhwanuka. Who is your Lord? Who are your brethren? What is in your religion? Who is in your prophet? The angels will ask. So human beings will be questioned in the grave. And then in the grave there is punishment. If a person does not believe in Allah, likewise if a person does a lot of sin, then Allah does not forgive. Na'udhu min dhalik, may Allah save all of us. But basically it is a difficult situation. And then there will be qiyamah, that we will be resurrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. And there is mizan and sirat and hisab. That all of us will be in the court of Allah, and every of our deeds will be written in kitab, in a book. And the angels will say, Iqra kitabaka, read in your book, just like we're having a report book. After you study 4 years for your O-levels, the report book comes. All your grades will be manifested, whether you have achieved and you have not achieved, whether you have success or no success. Yawm al-Qiyamah, all our books and the angels writing our deeds. Ma yalfazu bin qawlin illa ladayhi raqibun atid. The Quran said, and raqib, the angels on our right and the angels on our left, they will keep on writing about the deeds that we do. And Yawm al-Qiyamah, the book will be open for us to read. And Allah will record any human beings for all the things that we have done from the time of puberty until we pass away. So it is going to be a tough issue. It's not something that is easy. And then there is the scale. Our deeds will be weighed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there will be the bridge, sirat. So all these difficulties, we are making these preparations for those events. Today in this life, we are making preparations for death. We are making a preparation for sakaratul maut. We are making preparation for barzakh. We are making preparation for hisab and mizan. We are making preparation for sirat. And we hope that Allah make us enter Jannah. But the effort is today. The time that Allah is blessing us with now. That we are still having this life. And this is the test that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How are we able to use this time and this opportunity to attain safety in dunya and safety in akhirah? Goodness in dunya, goodness in akhirah. So going back to the strategy is, number one, focus on the foundations. Number two, look at the commandments, the ahkam. What are the do's and the don'ts? And this comes with the knowledge and your fiqh, that we have to study this knowledge to understand what is wajib and what is haram, what is makruh, what is mubah, and what is sunnah and mandub, and so on and so forth. Then we have to force ourselves to fulfill the commandments and refrain from the prohibitions. So in the course of this phase of building our foundation and working towards our branches, then comes the fruits. When does the fruit comes? The fruit comes after establishing the foundation and working on the branches. The fruits will come. So the fruits is what in our tradition we call it the tazkiyah. That is the fruits. So when a person make efforts on the foundations and make efforts on the branches, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless him with tazkiyah. And that is a very important aspect in spirituality. And our Prophet ﷺ was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only to propagate Tawheed, not only to teach the ahkam, but the Prophet ﷺ taught us how are we able to purify ourselves. That is why in the Quran Allah says, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Yani, Allah said that we have sent the Prophet ﷺ to the unlettered people, to the Arabs, the pagans. A prophet that teaches them about the Quran and the Sunnah and teaches them about purification, tazkiyah. So this is the topic for today. The topic for today focuses on the fruits. But as what I mentioned before we speak of the fruits, we have to understand our foundations and the branches. Because not understanding any foundation and branches will not reach us to the goals that we need. So the question we ask is, how are we able to take this path? And how are we able to get this benefit? And how can the month of Ramadan that is coming become an opportunity for me to work on these meanings? So that if I come out from Ramadan, I have gone through a process of spirituality, where I benefited from this holy month. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He speaks about the month of Ramadan, what did He say? He said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam. And O believers, for verily fasting has been made obligatory upon you. Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. Just like how fasting has been made obligatory upon the communities before you. So the act of fasting is not something new to this ummah. The previous prophets also propagated the importance of fasting into their communities. It shows the importance of fasting for spiritual upbringing. Because not only our Prophet ﷺ, but also prophets before him. Nabi Musa alayhi salam, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. That is why you see the Ahlul Kitab until today, they have also their fasting. The Jews also fast. The Christians also they have certain type of fast. So this act of fasting has been a very old tradition. Because why? There is a lot of benefit in it. And what is the benefit? In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. The objective of fasting is to attain taqwa to Allah. The meaning of taqwa, if it is translated to English, I think a good translation will be God consciousness. A lot of people, when they speak about taqwa, they say fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is one aspect. We are not saying it's wrong, but that is one aspect. But the meaning of taqwa, as what Al-Imam Razali mentioned, in Bidayatul Hidayah, the important definition of taqwa, he said, At-taqwa huwa al-imtisalul awamiri wajtinabuz zawajiri. He said that God consciousness is to fulfill the commandments and to refrain from the prohibitions. To fulfill the commandments and to refrain from the prohibitions outwardly and inwardly. Outwardly and inwardly. So God consciousness, it is an attribute in a human being that drives him to obey Allah. And all these things, comes with the strength of Iman. All these things, comes in point number one, is the strength of Iman that drives a person towards obedience. This is taqwa. So we can test ourselves, what is the state of our taqwa? How are we able to test ourselves? Look at ourselves. What is our attitude towards prayers? For example, do you find difficulty to perform the 5 daily prayers? Or you find performance any of the 5 time daily prayers any is easy and you are looking forward into it and you find sweetness in it. So if a person, for example, and he finds performance any of the prayers and it's so difficult and like a mountain on top, and to perform any 5 time daily prayers. Now this is an indication there is a problem. Something has to be done. Something has to be done. Where is any the fault that has to be repaired? So as a Muslim, we need to understand the ways of doing this. Because all these things are related to our nafs, it is related to our hearts, it is related to our spirituality, it is related to our knowledge, it is related to our iman. There's a lot of things. But as a Muslim, we need to understand ourselves and our weaknesses and the things that we need to work on. If we understand, for example, we know that we have problems in our iman is weak, or we have doubts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we should repair it where? By studying aqidah. And if a person has confusion about religion, confusion about things that are related into ideas and ideologies, then where is the antidote? The antidote is knowledge in theology. If a person feels that he is having this difficulty to perform any ibadah, now there is an issue in iman. How are we able to boost our iman? Because the problem begins with the goods. So again, going back to learning any theology and the application by dhikr and fiqh. That's what we mentioned. يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. These are the two ways. How are we able to boost our iman? And boosting any iman is the key. Because you need fuel for the car. The more fuel you have, the longer it can go. And then when it comes to the performance of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we find ourselves having difficulty in understanding certain things, then we have to study the knowledge of fiqh, so that we can clear our doubts, and so that our ibadah becomes valid. And when our ibadah becomes valid, and it has a connection with spirituality, that we are moving in this path, that our iman is true and firm, and our amal and our deeds are in accordance to the way taught by the Prophet ﷺ, based on sound knowledge, then we will attain God consciousness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the objective of fasting. The objective of fasting at the end of the day is how are we able to increase our God consciousness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we enter into the month of Ramadan from the beginning, and then when we live in the month of Ramadan, we should measure the level of our God consciousness. We should measure. We should do muhasabah. What is the level of our God consciousness now, today? So all of us, we have to go back and we have to ponder upon ourselves. What is the level of my iman? What is the level of my God consciousness? And how am I able to increase it? And the coming of the month of Ramadan is an opportunity. Because this effort of increasing of iman, increasing of God consciousness, it is a continuous effort, whether Ramadan or no Ramadan. But the only thing about the month of Ramadan is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us to achieve. That is the difference. In the month of Sha'ban, in the month of Rabiul Awwal, there are certain virtues pertaining to certain months. This effort has to be continuous. But when it comes into the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the month of Ramadan and make it easy for people to make effort on their spiritual state. And if they are sincere and they perform the commandments and they refrain from prohibitions and they observe fasting with the sunnahs, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy, the path of God consciousness. And the path of God consciousness is one of the ways that we will make ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is our objective in life. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq and hidayah. So when we speak about Islamic and spirituality, we have understood the connection between Islamic and spirituality and Islamic and theology and Islamic jurisprudence. That Islamic and theology is the roots, jurisprudence any other branches, and the spirituality any is the fruits any of that foundations and that branches. And it is easy any to understand this not only in the Quran. The Quran speaks any about the three as what we mentioned, but also we have the hadith of the Prophet, the hadith of Jibreel. The hadith of Jibreel and is one of the hadith that taught us, in order for us to get the fruits, we have to perfect the foundations and the branches. Because Jibreel alayhi salam, when he asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, number one, and he asked about Islam and he asked about Iman. And the first thing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned is the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah. This is any foundations in belief, in theology. And then comes the Ahkam. And then he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about ihsan. And there is a term in the prophetic and the sunnah where the Prophet and he was asked what is any ihsan. This is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he mentioned al ihsan an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu. That ihsan and it is a spiritual state that when you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are able to witness Allah. You are able to witness in Allah. How does a person witness in Allah? Our scholars mentioned by perfecting the tenets of faith and fulfilling the obligations and refraining from the prohibitions outwardly and inwardly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless the spiritual state of a person that is able to witness Allah as though he see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the strategy. The strategy comes from below up. From below up. And this is the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Basically the hadith of Jibreel, it informs us about the path to Allah. How are we able to reach Allah? Because the path of ihsan is the pinnacle. Ihsan is the pinnacle. The scholars of tasawwuf, the scholars of spirituality, they name this pinnacle as maqam shahada. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was asked about ihsan, he said, al ihsan an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu wa illam takun tarahu fa innahu yarak. So there is these two levels of spirituality, stations of spirituality. Number one is witnessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two is having the conviction that Allah is looking. So in our Islamic tradition, we call it the first level, and it is the level of shahada. The second level, the level of muraqabah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam again is teaching us the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to take the path of aqidah and the path of the sharia, and Allah will bless us with the level of witnessing to knowing Him. And that is the objective of our lives. How are we able to walk this path? How are we able to get benefit from this path? What are the hurdles of this path? What are the barriers? And how to overcome them? And how to fight our nafs and the whispers of shaitan? Because we have our enemies. Our enemies do not want us to reach our destination. There are hurdles, there are barriers. How are we able to understand the nature of this path? How are we able to go through this path? What are the efforts that we need to put in? How we want to go about? How we want to reach? And how we want to look at our spiritual state? And how we want to have this realization? And how we need to have this motivation? So all these things are the questions that we need to find those answers. And this is a objective in our life. So when we say this objective of our life is the most important thing in life. Not any food and drink and not your career. Correct now? Your career is not the objective. But today, you ask a lot of people outside, we ask them, what is your objective in life? People say, I want to become a doctor. Is your only doctor? That is your only objective in life? Say yes. Some people in India like that. Once I become a doctor, khalas. I have reached the pinnacle of success. Once I become a doctor or I become an engineer. But in the perspective of Islam, this is not what it should be. The ultimate success is not success in these things. But the ultimate success is when a person reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a saying in Islamic spirituality about reaching Allah. Inshallah. Yani reaching Allah meaning attaining a conviction, yani a level of conviction. Because Allah is not measured by distance in reality. But this is a metaphorical statement. When we say someone reach Allah, meaning what? Meaning someone has taken the path. Someone has a strong iman and fulfilling the obligations and having sincerity and ikhlas and constantly remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until Allah bless him with 100% conviction in the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His promises. So we say this person has reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that sense. One of them is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and we have hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that speaks about his iman. The Prophet praised so many of the companions. The Prophet, and he said, and for example, if there is a Nabi before me, who is that person? If there is a Prophet before me, lakana Umar. He said, if there is a Prophet that comes after me, that person is Umar al-Khattab. Why is Umar al-Khattab? Because Umar al-Khattab he was blessed by Allah with firasa. Firasa is knowledge that comes direct from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet had mentioned, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min fa innahu yanzuru bi nurillah. Fear the firasa of a mu'min. I don't know how in English we translate this firasa. Like in English, like a person that can see beyond. What do you call it? Foresight. Was that foresight? Yeah, foresight. But this is a bit different than foresight. So Umar al-Khattab, and he just to give an example of this firasa, he was in Medina, he's able to see the army in Azerbaijan. Can you imagine? Without binoculars, from Medina, he can see Azerbaijan. And he was doing khutbah. While doing khutbah, he said, Ya Sariya al-Jabal. Ya Sariya al-Jabal. Sariya is the commander of the army. Azerbaijan. How many miles away? He said, Ya Sariya, look at the mountain, there is an enemy behind you. Look at the mountain, there is an enemy behind you. Sariya said, I heard the voice of Amirul Mu'mineen. And we look at the mountain, and true enough, the enemy is hiding. And this is reported by Sheikh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in his book Al-Isaba with the sanad. And it's witnessed by the Sahaba in front of the Tabi'in in front of him. Nobody today can say this is a fabricated hadith wala mawdu wala shay. Understand? Because nowadays some people masakin, they do not know about all this. They thought all these things are fairy tales. No, it's not fairy tales. This is karama. Karamatul awliya. There are people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with miracles. The ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are like the Anbiya of Bani Israel. So there are many miracles that Allah bless the saints. Why? Because of the meanings that we mentioned, when they reach a certain pinnacle in God consciousness, Allah bless them with miracles and bless them with virtues that normal people do not get. And this is a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, Osman ibn Affan, when we want to speak about this, there's a lot of examples. We have the examples of Osman ibn Affan, the examples of Ali ibn Abi Talib, for example, in the battlefield. We have the examples of Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, where these are the people, and when they enter into the battlefield, they are like 100 men. One person is like 100 men. All these things are miracles that Allah blessed them with. Why? Because they have reached this pinnacle. This is the pinnacle of taqwa. They have reached the maqam of ihsan, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned al-ihsan an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu. So today, this is the topic of discussion, and how are we able to take this path. But before that, I need to know how many minutes I have. La ilaha illallah. 5 minutes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Because our brother actually was telling me to speak about the 7 degrees of nafs. Actually, I want to go into it. Okay, but since I have 5 minutes, I do not know anyhow I need to speak any about it. But what I'm trying to say is that you see in the path of the spirituality, our scholars, they speak about the 7 levels or 7 degrees. And this is one of the ways that we Muslims we can know what is in our spiritual state and how are we able to climb these levels. And how are we able to understand where we are in our spiritual state. And what are the things that we are in need for us to do. How to improvise ourselves. Because at the end of the day, knowledge of tasawwuf is about what? Purification. How are we able to make ourselves better? How are we able to make efforts on our nafs? How are we able to purify our hearts? How are we able to take this path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to climb these degrees? So our scholars, they speak about the 7 levels from Amara to from Amara to Lawama to Mulhama, and then we have Mutma'inna and Radiya, Mardiya, and then the last we have Al-Kamila. So in each of these levels, there are characteristics. How are we able to reach these stations, this maqam? And how are we able to climb? And there is a specific knowledge to this. Al-Imam Razali, for example, speak about this in his books. Al-Imam Al-Haddad, likewise Shaykh Ahmad Dardir in the commentary of Khalid Bahiyya. So this is the path that we are taking. And it is important for all of us at this point to understand to get the rough idea of this path. Correct? I don't expect everyone suddenly after one lecture, mashallah, and understand everything. But this lecture is basically made to at least give you like a mind map, something like a map, meaning to put our priorities and to understand the importance of this approach. How are we able to attain these degrees? So the month of Ramadan, again, by fasting, by Qiyamul Layl, by recitation of the Quran, by the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, performance of the prayers and the sunnahs, every single act of ibadah will give an effect to our spiritual upbringing. And it will become the reason for us to move closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we hope inshallah in the coming of Ramadan, Allah will accept our deeds. And we enter out we move out of the month of Ramadan in a state where Allah will forgive all of our sins. This is what we hope for. We hope that Allah will forgive our sins before Ramadan and after Ramadan. But anyway, always asking Allah for tawbah is something that we have to do every day. That we always must possess these characteristics of tajdeedu tawbah. That every time when we fall into sin, then we always have to remind ourselves the importance of going back and asking Allah for forgiveness and obeying Him. To have the attribute of shukr. When Allah bless you with ni'mah, you must have this attribute of gratitude to the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah tests you with calamities, then you must have patience. This is what Shaykh Ahmad Dardir mentioned in Khalid Bahiyya. وَكُنْ عَلَى آلَائِهِ وَكُنْ عَلَى آلَائِهِ صَبُورًا وَكُنْ عَلَى آلَائِهِ شَكُورًا وَعَلَى بَلَائِهِ صَبُورًا وَجَدِّدِ التَّوْبَةَ لِلْأَوْزَارِ. Always do tajdeedu tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having shukr for the bounties, sabr when calamity comes, and always have dhikr wal fikr, as what we mentioned, and to be people who possess God consciousness, because your friends around you has an impact. That is also another thing I want to speak about, but just that there is no time. I hope if I can get about 45 minutes, that will be nice. Another 45 minutes. But ala kulli hal, these are some of the summary. To have shukr and sabr, and then we have zikr wal fikr. Zikr and fikr. To be with people who are God consciousness. It is important to find friends who are taking the same path and to have the same concern. Friends that are good, friends that remind you about Iman, friends that remind you about Akhirah. Do not be any with people only about dunya. Day and night in dunya and soccer and dunya and game and soccer and game. This doesn't give you any much, doesn't give you much any benefit. We got no time here, Jama'ah, no time. We do not know. Tomorrow you will die, correct? So we cannot waste any time with people who divert us from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to say sorry, bye-bye. But not any cutting any ties, but basically putting any priorities in right. Who are the people who we need to be with? We have to focus on this, because once we understand our objectives, all the things comes into place. The friends that you are with, the people whom you are with, and likewise, what you call it? The most important is also to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the best time is at the time of sahar. And one of the dua that Sheikh Ahmad Dardi mentioned, for example, in Kharida, Allahumma la taqta'ni biqati'in. Allahumma la taqta'ni biqati'in. Oh Allah, do not deprive me of a qati'in. And in Arabic, qati'in is something that cuts you off. So Sheikh Ahmad Dardi in the end of Kharida Bahiyya, after he speaks about Aqidah and Tazkiyah, he said, oh Allah, do not deprive me with something that cuts me from you. Why? Because once we understand that Allah is our maqsood, so we must be wary about anything that will cut us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the moment we understand that something cuts us from Allah, then we have to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We always have to return to Him and put our hope in Him, and to enhance this fear in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam bis-sawab. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. I would like to take any questions from you, if there is any questions, inshallah. Is this mine? No. Bit thirsty. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you Ustaz Anwar for the meaningful sharing, the reminders and encouragement as we strive to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Ramadan is only a few days away, and it is our hope to make the most out of the holy month. I see that there are several questions for Ustaz Anwar sent through Slido. So are we okay with extending it a little bit? Yeah? Inshallah. May I read the questions to you now, Ustaz? The first question: what are some of Islam's guidelines towards doing introspection and self-reflection? Is there a sunnah or a hadith for us to emulate?
There is a hadith, a famous hadith, where it says, there is this famous hadith, and we quote in our classes, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, "Al-kayyisu man dana nafsa wa amina lima ba'da al-maut." Al-kayyisu man dana nafsahu. And the Prophet speaks about an intelligent person. An intelligent person, man dana nafsahu, is a person who always ponder upon himself, reconcile, muhasabah. Is a person who always ponder upon his spiritual state. Wa amina lima ba'da al-maut. And the reason why he does so, because he is making preparation for death. Because he understands, that's what we mentioned just now, life in this dunya is a test. 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. How are we able to use the time that Allah is giving us, and to ponder upon ourselves, to reckon, not reconcile, to reckoning, self-reckoning, to reckon ourselves, as a form of preparation for our death. The Prophet also mentioned, this is the intelligent person. Meaning, he understood his objectives. That's what we mentioned. He understood his objectives, and he is constantly pondering upon his state. The state of Iman, the state of Amal, the state of Ihsan. That's what we mentioned. He is constantly pondering upon himself. Why is he constantly pondering upon himself? Because he understands there is a big event that is coming. There is a big event that is coming, that is the death. Death, and it will come. And all these things will come after death. The barzakh, that we will be in our graves, mahshar, that we will be resurrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yawm al-qiyamah, the mizan and sirat, all these things that we mentioned earlier. So the door to all these events is al-maut. So that is why the person who is intelligent is the person who always reckoning himself as a form of preparation. وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And he put in the efforts that will benefit him and it for the things that comes in after death. So this act of reckoning, it is compulsory at times, and it is a sunnah for everyone. It is a sunnah for everyone. Why we say it is compulsory? Because doing any tazkiyah is compulsory. Yani, as a Muslim, it is an obligation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have to purify ourselves. Purification of ourselves is wajib. That's why Imam Razali, he mentioned it is fardu ain. The knowledge of tazkiyah, to study the knowledge of tazkiyah is fardu ain. Because why? Tazkiyah itself is fardu ain. So the knowledge of this form of purification is also fardu ain. When it comes to muhasabah, it is part of understanding the ways and the weaknesses that we possess, and this is also part of obligation. It can also be sunnah when it comes to other things, and when it comes to ponderance upon the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pondering about this also when it comes under reckoning, and this is something that is recommended by the Quran.
Thank you. Second question: my God consciousness goes up and down during Ramadan. Goes up during Ramadan and goes down after Ramadan, and this repeats every year. How do I overcome this?
Yeah, the nature of human beings is that our iman and our God consciousness sometimes go up and sometimes go down. It goes up when we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we have sincerity. For example, we are in a state of remembrance or ponderance, and it goes up. But when sometimes when na'udzubillah min dhalik, and we commit any ma'siyah or sins, then it goes down. At the end of the day, this is a challenge. How are we able to maintain? There's a question that we need to ask ourselves. How are we able to maintain this God consciousness? How are we able to maintain iman? How are we able to maintain the things that increases our God consciousness? Here, our scholars speaks about the importance of istiqamah. Istiqamah. Al-Imam Fudayl ibn Iyad, one of the great saints in Islam, he said, al-istiqamatu afdalul karama. He said, having continuity in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of all miracles. He said, I am not amazed by a person who is able to swim in the ocean, because fishes also can swim. I am not amazed that a person can fly, because a person also can fly. But I am amazed when a person is blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with istiqamah. So having any istiqamah is the key. So the question that we need to ask, how are we able to possess continuity in amal? So this requires a lot of efforts, a lot of reckoning. Again, it goes back to reckoning, because a person who reckons himself, the moment he finds his God consciousness and he go down straight away and he do something. Just like when you are driving and you know that your fuel is going down. You need to do something, and you need to find what? You need to find the pump station, correct or not? Because otherwise, you'll be driving, it goes empty, you'll be stranded in the highway. So a person knows about his spiritual state, and always does muhasabah. And when he finds himself down, he knows how to go about in bringing himself up. How do we bring our God consciousness up? Again, the formula that we gave. We have to look at the foundations, we have to look at the branches, and then we also have to ponder upon the fruits that comes from this strategy. So this is the way that we can check ourselves and the level of God consciousness, and to make any improvements.
Thank you, Ustaz. Next question. How do we increase barakah in our lives in terms of time, wealth, etc.?
Increasing in barakah is always to have connection with Allah. This is what our ulama, our Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, the moment we dedicate everything that we do for the sake of Allah, there is barakah. This is the formula. If you study for the sake of Allah, Allah will give you barakah in your studies. If you work because of Allah, there is barakah in your work. But if you work because of dunya, there is no barakah. You get dunya, correct? No? That's why the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith, any famous hadith of Umar al-Khattab, what did the Prophet said? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَمَنْ كَانَ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى الدُّنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. The Prophet speaks about your intention. Where is your intention? When you are doing any particular thing, what is your intention? If your intention is for Allah, there is barakah. If your intention is for ghayrullah, other than Allah, there is no barakah. Even though outwardly people thought, mashallah, you are doing any good deeds, but in reality there is nothing. Al-Imam Ghazali, for example, in Bidayatul Hidayah, in the Muqaddimah, what did he say? He said, you see any people seeking knowledge, not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they do not get any benefit in akhirah. Even though they are studying fiqh, even though they are studying tafsir, even though they are saying hadith, there is no barakah. Why? Ajib, and no barakah? Yani learning the sharia, no barakah. Because at the end of the day, Allah looks at the heart, Allah looks at the intention. Where is the intention? Intention for Allah, you get Allah. Intention for the dunya, you get dunya. A person does hijrah because he wants to marry a woman. Yani, the Prophet mentioned, yankihuha. He will get to marry the woman, but he will not get Allah and His Rasul. So this is the formula that all of us, inshallah, may Allah bless us with tawfiq. In everything that we do, we dedicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By it, inshallah, we get the barakah.
Thank you, Ustaz. Next question. As we strive to maximize our time during Ramadan, what would you suggest we prioritize? For example, prayers, reading the Al-Quran to avoid spiritual burnout.
What are the things that we emphasize? You see, when it comes into the month of Ramadan, we should always take any opportunity that we can. You see, some people, they are inclined to recite the Quran. So he should take the opportunity to recite the Quran. Some people have this inclination to perform any prayers. He should take the opportunity to perform any prayers. Some people has this inclination to do zikr. He should take the opportunity to do zikr. Meaning, any opportunity that comes into you, grab it. Because different people have different inclinations in reality. Some people, they love seeking knowledge so much, but when it comes to amal, not so much. Correct, no? But when it comes to majalis al-ilm, mashallah, they are always the first. Some people, when it comes to seeking knowledge, not interested in that much. But when it comes to majalis zikr, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are the first. Correct, no? So different people have different inclinations. So when it comes into the month of Ramadan, we always work on our inclinations. And why we say this? Because usually the thing that you are inclined to do is easier for you to do. So if that thing is easier for you to do, then do it. Take the opportunity and turn that inclination into something that you benefit from. But at the same time also, we need to go against our desires. If we have difficulty, for example, to recite the Quran, like it's very difficult to recite the Quran. For example, some people, to take the Quran from the shelf it is a challenge. Correct or not? But to say subhanallah, 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 no problem. But to take the Quran, to go to the shelf, to take the Quran and open the Quran and to recite the Quran, mashallah, it is a process of fighting the nafs and the shaitan. In Ramadan, inshallah, all these things, Allah make it easy. Then we have to fight our nafs and also to look into the benefits of certain things that the Prophet ﷺ taught us to emphasize in the month of Ramadan, especially the recitation of the Quran, performance of the Tarawih prayers. Usually performance of Tarawih prayers is a bit easy because many people are going, so usually you have friends and you're going. So you should take the opportunity to go to the masjid to perform the Tarawih prayers. And to perform Tarawih prayers, how many raka'ah? 20 raka'ah. Correct? Nowadays, we have debates. They are ongoing debates. Every year there is a, we know what's the debate. Whether we should pray 8 raka'ah or 20 raka'ah. I still remember our teacher, Habib Ahmad bin Smith, he got fed up because every year people ask him this question. So one day he said, Ya Jama'ah, no need for you to pray with Tarawih prayers. Because at the end of the day, Tarawih prayer is a sunnah. So no need to fight. Whether you want to pray 8 raka'ah or 20 raka'ah, don't pray. I still remember. Meaning he got so fed up that he said those things. Because at the end of the day, the more you pray, the more rewards you get. So in Ramadan, and we should not be limiting ourselves into all these things. If you can pray 20 rakah, pray 20 rakah, and it is not a bid'ah. How can you say it's a bid'ah? The Khulafa Rashidin pray 20 rakah. Khulafa Rashidin doing bid'ah? Khulafa Rashidin do not know the Sunnah. Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab did 20 rakah. Uthman bin Affan 20 rakah. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib 20 rakah. The Sahaba who are living and doing those times, how many rakah do they pray? The Sahaba 20 rakah. Our scholars have mentioned there is ijma' sukuti. Ijma'. There is a consensus amongst the Sahaba. 20 rakah. But we are living in amazing times. Suddenly somebody come, say 20 rakah is bid'ah, sayyi'ah, you go to Jahannam. Correct? No, you must pray 8. Haram. Ajib, and we say this is ajib. So now when you go back into the whole ummah pray 20 rakah. From the time of the Sahaba until today, the 4 madhahib prayed 20 rakah, except for Imam Malik. But these are the things that we should focus, whatever goodness that we can do, we strive in it, inshallah. Now, is that all?
Thank you. We still have some more
Yeah, you
questions
can.
here.
No problem.
Next question is how and
I believe until 10 o'clock, eh? You have half an hour. Inshallah.
Okay, last question. How and where do I learn the correct Aqidah, which is the foundation that you mentioned earlier?
Oh, it's a good question. This is a question when it comes into Aqidah. This is a good question, especially today. Nowadays, we are living in confusing times. This is a good question and a valid any question, because having the wrong Aqidah will land you somewhere else. Correct, no? You want to go to Kuala Lumpur, but you end up in Kelantan. Because problems in directions. The Aqidah that we are speaking about is the Aqidah of the Prophet ﷺ, of course. Yeah? The Aqidah that was revealed to prophets and messengers. The belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to all prophets and messengers that was inherited by the Sahaba and Tabi'een and the Tabi'een and the Ulama al-Amilin until today. Okay, how do we know which one? Then we look at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the time of the Sahaba, the Tabi'een and Tabi'een. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the thing about them is that they depend on the memory. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, when they seek knowledge with the Prophet ﷺ, not many of them write books. This is in history. But a lot of them memorize the words of the Prophet ﷺ, and they convey the message, and they obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They convey to the Tabi'een. The Tabi'een, the generation that they came after the Sahaba, they record some sayings of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and the recordings are not much. But when it comes into the Tabi'een, like Al-Imam Abu Hanifa and our 4 Imams and other Imams, they begin to write down, to compile any books to explain about this knowledge. What is the meaning of Iman? What is the knowledge of Aqidah? What are the things that is compulsory upon a Muslim to believe in? So they start writing. Then came Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Then came Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari. To cut the thing short, always you find, for example, when you study about history and theology, Islamic and theology, you will come across this great Imam by the name of Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari. He was born in the year 265 in Hijriya, or 260 in Hijriya, passed away in the year 324 or 325. Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, it was his compilation. Why we say his compilation? Because he managed to compile this knowledge profoundly. Not only he compiled this knowledge, but he compiled the evidences that comes with this knowledge. So the knowledge that was imparted by the Prophet ﷺ to the Sahaba, to the Tabi'een, to the Tabi'een, with the compilations of the Imams that come in during this time, and the coming of Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, he compiled this knowledge in his compilation, in his books, which the scholars who are living during his time and the ones who came after him, they acknowledge that this is the Aqidah of the Prophet ﷺ. Clear, inshallah? So today, if we ask, how do I know what is the aqidah that has been propagated by prophets and messengers, that has been inherited by the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, it goes back into the books of this Imam, Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari and Al-Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi. Because there's not much difference between these two Imams in their compilations. There are only a few differences when it comes to the branches of this knowledge. So the scholars who came after them until today are known as the scholars of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah are those who abide by the compilations of Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari or Al-Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi. This is what we meant by Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The later scholars who came, they summarized these books. For example, Al-Imam al-Sanusi, he came out with a series of books as a form of learning in the methodology of Ahlus Sunnah. Al-Imam al-Taftazani also did the same. And other Imams, Sheikh Ahmad Dardir, for example, in his Kharida Bahiyya, he make it easy for people to study. Likewise, other scholars who summarize this knowledge. So today, going back into the question, if a person asks, what is the right aqidah that we should be studying? We say this is the aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. What is the aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah? It is the compilation of Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari. Why Al-Imam Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari? This has been witnessed by the scholars from his time all the way until today. You see, not a single, when you look at the scholars of the madhabs, in madhab Imam Shafi, madhab Imam Abu Hanifa, madhab Imam Ahmad, and madhab Imam Malik, either they are al-Ash'ari or Maturidi. So we are speaking about, wallahu alam, many thousands or millions of ulama that came from then until today, that speaks about this acknowledgement. So what is important for us today is to study and to access those books with that methodology and to know the teachers and so on and so forth. So we get our Islamic learning, Islamic theology right, and when we get it right, then we confirm it. That's what I mentioned. Number one, you have to get it right. Right or not? Not having the right belief will affect your spirituality. Not having the right belief will affect your jurisprudence. Even you study fiqh. But without the right foundations in Islamic theology, it can make your ibadah not valid. It can make your ibadah not accepted. Because faults in the foundation is severe. Faults in the foundation is severe. Faults in jurisprudence is not so severe. But when it comes to the faults in foundation, then we have to be careful. So that we do not sway from the way of the Ahlus Sunnah. Because if we sway from the way of Ahlus Sunnah, then we'll be wasting a lot of our time putting in a lot of ibadah. But maybe our ibadah will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it is not based on sound belief. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all forms of deviations. And may Allah bless us with iman and taqwa.
Alhamdulillah, we've definitely learned a lot from Ustaz Anwar today.